Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd do a cool little video looking at the top 10 most disappointing movies of 2021. Now this isn't a list talking about the worst movies I've seen this year, because those would kind of go to like the Kissing Booth 3, like He's All That. I thought those were really bad. This is more of a list of movies that I had high expectations for, but I thought they didn't quite meet them. And I ended up actually strongly disliking all these movies. Like always, hit that like button if you guys haven't enjoyed this. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new. Let's do it. So coming at number 10, I have Tom and Jerry. Now, obviously my expectations weren't super high for this movie, but I thought maybe they could play into the nostalgia of these cartoons for some adult audiences, while also bringing a new generation to Tom and Jerry. And so what this movie does instead is that it's pretty much just made for toddlers with some pretty dumb comedy. This movie was not meant for the people that grew up watching Tom and Jerry. They're trying to bring Tom and Jerry to a new audience, and I just didn't think it worked that well. Chloe Grace Moretz did a fine job in it. I don't really blame her, but I just blame the lazy writing, the dumb jokes, and having no substance for the people that actually grew up with this cartoon. But instead, this movie feels like a mainstream money grab to a generation I don't think is going to care for Tom and Jerry. You know, in the age of superheroes and all this other stuff, I just feel like Tom and Jerry doesn't really fit into what's been going on in today's world. And I don't see any kids becoming Tom and Jerry fans because of this movie, because frankly, I thought it was really bad. And now coming at number 9, I have Earwig and the Witch. This is a new movie from Studio Ghibli. If you guys don't know who Studio Ghibli is, there's a great animation studio that made some classics like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro. Some really nostalgic, great animated movies, some of the best of all time that come from Japan. And, you know, so they announced this new movie called Earwig and the Witch. They said they're going to bring in a new animation style. I didn't watch the trailer, but Studio Ghibli, I've liked every single movie that I've seen from them. And so there are some pretty high expectations coming with that studio. And Earwig and the Witch was just such a big disappointment because one, the animation was some of the worst I've ever seen. The story was instantly boring and really weird looking. And I actually, honestly, I fell asleep about halfway through, and I just kept sporadically waking up throughout. And for like the last hour or so, I just forced myself to stay up. And it was honestly so bad, one of the worst movies of 2021. And like I said, just an utter disappointment from Studio Ghibli. Coming at number 8, I have Fast and Furious 9, better known as F9. And so I'm a pretty big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. I know a lot of them are pretty dumb, but you know, I love the first one. I love Fast 5. You know, even Fast and Furious 2 and Tokyo Drift, I can have a lot of fun with. And pretty much for the whole franchise, even though I know some of them are bad, and some of them do get boring too, I always find a way to, you know, have fun with these characters. And so F9, I expected more of the same. I thought Fast Furious 8 actually wasn't as bad as people thought. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to embrace the craziness of this franchise and just see what F9 has in store. And F9 was just a huge disappointment because, one, John Cena's the villain. You know, I love John Cena, but he just didn't work as the brother here, and they actually didn't even use him that much. And this story just went way too wacky. You got spaceships. You got them going into space. By the time they even got to space, I was literally laughing about how bad it was. The story was just way too ridiculous. And, you know, the overstuffed action without any balance of, you know, good character moments just created a really convoluted, you know, head-hurting movie to watch. And, you know, I saw it in theaters, so that made it even worse. And it's not one that I'm really excited to rewatch when I know when the next one comes out. I'll probably rewatch it, but I will not be excited at all. Coming at number 7, I have The Conjuring 3. So I'm disappointed in this one because the first Conjuring is honestly, I think, the scariest movie of all time. Not the best horror movie of all time, but I think for me, it's the one I'm always actually scared to put on. And Conjuring 2, I don't think it's up there with Conjuring 1, but I do like that one a lot too. So Conjuring 3, I thought, you know, you bring back Ed and Lorraine Warren, you got the same actors, let's see where the story goes. And it was entertaining, but a huge disappointment because I didn't really buy the story. And it's supposed to be based on a true story, but when you start bringing in, you know, witches and you got Lorraine Warren fighting a witch, I just didn't really start to buy it. Another big thing was that the scares, it's not a scary movie at all. There's probably like 2 good scares, and it's because they're sort of like cheap jump scares, which I'm not really a fan of in horror movies. And I think The Conjuring, James Wan, he's not really behind the helm in this one, right? He's not the director. He just wrote it, which I think is where the main problem is. You know, to have James Wan back behind the camera maybe could have been better. You could have had like that real atmosphere that I thought was so well in the first Conjuring movie. And it's sort of absent in this one. So that's why I thought it was a big disappointment. And I hope that the next one, because I think we're getting one more at least, is a lot better than this one. Coming in at 6, I have Coming to America, the sequel to Eddie Murphy's classic Coming to America. And, the sequel, when you make a sequel that's like 30 plus years after the original, it never really works out, right? And this one is no exception. You bring back Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, you bring in a couple other people. You got James Earl Jones returning. You bring in Tracy Morgan. You got a couple of new actors in. You think maybe this could work. And it just didn't work for me. For some other people, I could see how it could work. I just thought that the jokes were so lazy, just not funny at all. The only enjoyment I got was seeing Eddie Murphy back in those, bringing back these characters that he used to portray. Because in that first one, he portrays like 5-6 characters. I enjoyed that element. And just like, it felt like a passing the torch down to Next Generation sort of film, which I didn't feel like it was needed for this sort of movie. And like I said, like with no comedy that I enjoyed, there's nothing for me to like about this movie. I thought it was a really big disappointment. But honestly, like, what could I have expected? Like I said, sequels like this never work out. Coming at number 5, I have The Woman in the Window, which debuted on Netflix this year. And it's directed by Joe Wright, who's a phenomenal director. He directed like Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, Darkest Hour, like great movies. And then you have a great cast like Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore. And so it looked like, a Rear Window remake with some other things. And that's kind of like what it was. And the movie is not terrible, but it's very mediocre, and it's not what it could have been, because the whole movie, it builds some good interest. You get involved with these characters in the story, but then where it all leads to feels so lazy and anticlimactic. It turns into like this weird slasher film, which I didn't enjoy very much. I wish they sort of focused on the psychological horror of it and kept that contained, but they try to add in all these different elements and genres where it just feels like too much mixed bag of genres into one movie. And I think Joe Wright, he's a great director, but for this type of movie, it just didn't really work. I think he should focus more on his period pieces, and because that's what he's great at. So coming in at number 4 is one that I saw a lot of people enjoyed, and that is the Candyman remake sequel to the 1992, I believe, Candyman, which is a classic horror film, one of the best horror films of the 90s. And I wasn't expecting this new one to be as great as that first one. That's kind of like way too high expectations. But this one was another one that just felt very mediocre. I didn't hate it. I just didn't think it was that very good either. And with such a short runtime, it just felt like there wasn't enough elements in there to make it good. And so some big things I didn't like was that it didn't include the original score, which I think is amazing. The characters were very uninteresting. Things just sort of go along with these cheap jump scares again. The story felt like it was trying to say a lot, which I appreciate. Especially towards the end, they're trying to get a lot of messages across, where I felt like it was a little bit unneeded. And I felt like by the end, they didn't really say anything at all. Like for a movie that was trying to say a lot, I just felt kind of empty at the end. And I was kind of like, what kind of message were they trying to get across? I just didn't really see it. And it was like some elements were in there that I didn't really see in the original. So I just felt like, I don't know, it was a very weird movie for me. And I could see why some people enjoyed it. It has some good things about it. Like the visual effects look pretty good. There's one good twist. But like I said, I don't hate it, but it was very mediocre. Coming at number 3, I have M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, Old. And so for the first half of this movie, I was actually enjoying it a lot. You have a premise where you have a bunch of people show up on a beach, and they just start getting old out of nowhere. So like, what's going on? Like, what's the mystery behind this beach? And seeing that unfold for the first half was really good. But in the second half, when it all starts to conclude, it just felt very empty. It starts to drag a lot. Scenes just start to go and go and go, and it just leads nowhere. And so I felt like M. Night had a very good idea for a movie, but then he just didn't know like how to wrap it up, or like what to include in terms of like themes and good character growth and stuff like that. Like there's none of that in there. It's just a really good idea, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. There's no substance other than let's go to a beach and everyone just gets old, and that's sort of it. It has a really lazy twist at the end. It has like that M. Night Shyamalan twist, which I thought was okay. It was good. But it's just not enough to really save the movie for me. Coming at number 2, I have The Little Things. And now right away with this cast, you can tell why I expected so much. You have Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, Rami Malek. You have like in this thriller. But the problem with this movie is that it all just feels wasted. The characters of Denzel and Jared Leto feel very wasted. There's no substance to anything. There's no intriguement to the story. The first 20 minutes build up interest, but after that it gets super boring. We're only in the last 20 minutes. Is there anything to really, dig your teeth into? It didn't feel like anything new. It just felt like your same old Langsing of a thriller. And I'm just very disappointed in this one because of that cast and because there was room for it to be good, but it just ended up not being. So now, number one, the most disappointing movie for me this year is one that a lot of people like, and it's the critics love it. I think I see a lot of people loving it. For me, it's The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson. And so I'm not a huge Wes Anderson fan, but there are a lot of movies I love from him. The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Isle of Dogs, Life Aquatic, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think those are all top tier movies, really well done. And his style is something that I enjoy. I like his his unique style that he brings to the film industry. I think he does a very good job. My problem with The French Dispatch is that the story was way too convoluted and uninteresting. You have like this newspaper firm that are trying to do stories on all these different people. Halfway through, it just lost me because nothing really seems to connect. I didn't resonate with these characters at all. Like everyone's doing a bunch of all these different things. We're jumping around from one character to the next. It's not connected. They're all just doing different things. And I just didn't enjoy that. I like my stories to be more concrete, not as like I don't think this story is abstract, but it just felt kind of like all over the place. And his vibrant style wasn't really present in this either. A lot of the films in black and white, which I thought was a unique style for him to choose. But I think for his style, it doesn't really work because you don't really get to portray those vibrant colors that he has in a lot of his movies. And it was still good with you have some nice black and white shots. You got the snow coming down. His style is there, but like that good feel that I usually get from him, I just didn't really feel that. So for me personally, I didn't enjoy the story or the characters at all. I didn't resonate with one character. I didn't really care for one character, and so that's why it tops my list for the most disappointing film of 2021 for me. But that is just my own personal list. Let me know down below what was your most disappointing movie 2021 for you guys. Let me know. I will be doing a video where I do like the best TV shows I saw this year and the best movies I saw this year, so stay tuned to that. I may do a video where I do the worst movies 2021, but some of these will also be involved in those, so maybe I won't do that video. But like always, please make sure to like this if you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new. I will see you on the next video. Have a great rest of the day.